Can diabetics have desserts? Yeah, they actually can. But not the typical desserts everybody else has, and there are some special considerations. We'll talk about this, and I'll give you another great idea for a dessert coming up. A little while ago, I shared a new and improved recipe for a chocolate cake dessert you can make in a mug in 90 seconds. I've had a lot of great feedback on this, and that doesn't surprise me. It is a great dessert, simple to make, and satisfies our great love for chocolate. Today we're going to talk about a couple of considerations related to desserts for diabetics, but before we get into that, I want to share another creation of mine that I've been enjoying lately. This one has to do with, you guessed it, strawberries. I've always loved strawberry shortcake, and it was a great day when I discovered that strawberries have about 1 gram of carbs per strawberry. Using my mathematical skills, I deduced that 4 medium-sized strawberries should have around 4 grams of carbs. Now you may be thinking, yeah, but 4 strawberries aren't much. I don't think that would satisfy me. What could you do with 4 strawberries? Well, what you can do is make a great topping for a strawberry shortcake. Now, in a previous video I made, I talked about this and I gave you 4 alternatives for using as a base for strawberries. A low-carb waffle, a low-carb blueberry muffin, a low-carb pancake, and a low-carb muffin made in a mug. These days, my shortcake of choice is the low-carb muffin made in a mug. But I have 2 slight improvements. I use a little bit more of the coconut flour and the almond flour, probably 2 or more tablespoons each, and this enables me to make a big enough muffin so I can divide it into 4 slices, and normally I'll just eat a single slice, 1/4 of the muffin for my strawberry shortcake. So when you're making the recipe, get about the largest tablespoonful of the coconut flour and the almond flour you can get, something like this, just a real big mama's worth of tablespoon, and just dump that in your bowl where you're going to mix it. Now I will make one so large that I can get, like I said, 4 slices. I'll typically use 1 per evening, but on Saturday night I'll use 2. But that's another story. Remind me to tell you guys about our Saturday nights around here because things change on Saturday night. Another slight change is the fact that I add about a ½ teaspoon to a full teaspoon of flavor to the muffin mix before baking, either vanilla extract or orange extract. Now that may sound a little strange to be mixing orange flavor with the strawberries, but it really does work well and it gives you a fruity sweet taste as you eat it with the strawberries on top. Now, I've already gone ahead and made a muffin in a mug. Haven't taken it out yet, but we're going to take it out right now and just see how this worked out. Again, using the big old heaping tablespoons of coconut flour and the almond flour. So let's see if this will come out nicely. Hopefully it will for our video. And you can see that this is going to be large. I don't know if you can tell, but it's quite moist. And of course, that's part of the excitement of using the sour cream. It's going to be moist. Like we did with the chocolate, we're going to cut it in half. And then we're going to cut each half in half. And they're not going to be huge, of course, but they're going to be enough. Now, again, some of you are going to be saying, well, I want a bigger dessert than that. Well, sorry, but you got to be a little bit moderate when you're designing recipes and desserts for people that are diabetic. You just cannot pig out. But there we go, 4 nice sections of this muffin in a mug. I like the smell, I like the flavor, especially add a little bit of the orange extract or the vanilla extract. Really good. Now there is another change that I often make these days, and that is to skip the whipped cream altogether and instead add a little bit of heavy whipping cream to the strawberries. Let me show you how this works. Well, look at this beautiful mixture. How did I get this? I cut up 3 strawberries. That's right, 3 small strawberries, or medium strawberries, I guess you could say. And I mashed them and mashed them. But then, rather than just put the strawberries on top of the shortcake, I mixed in some heavy whipping cream. And instead of using regular whipped cream that you spray out of a can, we're gonna use the heavy whipping cream, and it makes this. Isn't that a beautiful color, a beautiful mixture? And it only takes 1 packet of Stevia or Truvia or whatever you use. As sweet as it could be. So let's put it on the muffin. Muffin in a mug, shortcake in a mug, I guess we could call this. And just look at this amazing dessert. Elegant, beautiful, sweet, tastes as good as it looks, and it looks great. It's amazing to me that you can add a single packet of Stevia or Truvia and totally sweeten that mixture. Some people complain about strawberries not being sweet enough, or they're too tart, or they're too dry when they're out of season. But the heavy whipping cream and 1 little scrawny packet of non-sugar sweetener changes all of that every single time. Now, I learned to try this one time when I was out of whipped cream. Now, I almost always have heavy whipping cream on hand, so I thought I'd give it a try, and I found I liked it just as much as the whipped cream that you spray out of a can. Not only will this work to create an amazing strawberry shortcake, but it makes a perfect pancake syrup, if you want to call it that, to go over your low-carb pancakes. Take a look at this baby. This is a coconut flour pancake, a low-carb pancake, and we've used this as a syrup. It's not a syrup, but it works just as well, if not better. Not only does this taste great, but it saves you from using a sugar-free syrup, which is probably going to have sugar alcohols, which bother some people. Plus, they would raise blood sugar more than a single packet of Stevia. Now, in the title, I spoke of the why and the when of keto or low-carb desserts for diabetics. So let's talk about that. First, the why. Why eat any dessert at all? Why not give up on anything and everything that has even the slightest sweet taste? Well, that certainly is an option, and if you can do that and you want to do that, more power to you. But most of us ordinary mortals want to taste something sweet every once in a while, and since there are definitely ways to do this without driving your blood sugar crazy, why not? If I go up to somebody who's contemplating a low-carb or keto diet for the sake of beating diabetes, and I tell them, for the rest of your life, you will never taste anything sweet again. This is the price you must pay to lower your A1C. Well, some of those folks would never even begin to change their diet. Or some might actually begin, but after a while they'd miss sweets so much they'd fall off the wagon and drown their diabetic sorrows in a mountain of apple pie and ice cream with Oreo cookies on the side. In my opinion, it's far better to have an occasional low-carb treat than to try to go cold turkey and then backslide miserably. And the reality is, the desserts like the ones I've been describing to you are not going to raise blood sugar much at all. And this channel, by the way, in case you hadn't figured it out, is all about helping ordinary people, not superheroes who have such an iron will that they can change their diet on a dime and never feel the least temptation to cheat. So that's the why. Now let's talk about the when. In my earlier years, it was my strict, never-changing practice to have a sugary dessert in the evenings about 2 hours after my dinner while watching TV. So while I might have my dinner at 6:30 or 7, I might have my dessert with some coffee at around 9. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but this was about the worst thing I could have done to absolutely destroy my metabolic efficiency, which is exactly what happened. Not only was I loading my body with sugar with those huge chunks of coconut pie, cinnamon rolls, or German chocolate cake, I was doing it late in the evening, guaranteeing that my blood glucose would be soaring throughout the night, even as I slept. Of course, I never thought about such things at the time, at least not until my metabolic system began to unravel. Today, I know better. First, I don't eat sugary desserts at all, period. I do eat smaller desserts, obviously, sweetened with stevia, like the strawberry shortcake we've been talking about. But second, I've learned just how terrible it is to be a grazer, grazing like a cow all day long on snacks and chips and grain products and starches and so forth. But not only do I avoid those things, but even with my low-carb foods, I want to keep my eating within a much shorter window of time. For me, this means I take my last meal at around 6 p.m., and that means that any low-carb dessert I'm going to eat will have to be eaten at the time of my dinner meal. I cannot eat dinner at 6 and then have my dessert at 9:30. This would extend my window of eating way too long, except with the possible exception of Saturday nights, which I will tell you about sometime. What this means is that I consider my low-carb dessert a part of my meal. It's the last part, but it is a part. So when I'm having a low-carb dessert with my meal, I don't need quite as many different foods in that meal. I may have some kind of meat, a medium-sized salad, and a strawberry shortcake made with 3 or 4 strawberries and about 1/4 of a muffin in a mug. This is essentially intermittent fasting, or as I like to call it, time-restricted eating. And once my meal, including my dessert, is over at 6:30 or so, the door is locked, the shop is closed, and I won't be touching any more food until the next morning, where I'll either eat a low-carb breakfast or simply drink a mug of bulletproof coffee. So normally, if you're going to have a keto-type dessert, it's best to have it as soon as you finish the other foods that make up your dinner meal. That way you have a good long time for your pancreas to rest, your insulin levels to get lower and lower, and your metabolic system to heal.